good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone that is streaming and watching us live. Um, Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for taking some time out your day and being able to attend this program for our monthly CRC live streams, where this month we will focus on gaming addictions. So just to let you guys know, this chat is being recorded. Um, and we are also streaming on Facebook as well as Instagram. So we just like to say thank you for everyone who was able to attend via WebEx, via Facebook, or via Instagram. As we get started, I just like to tell you guys a little bit about our program. So we are North Carolina Central's collegiate recovery community. We are a community that focuses on recovery for students who are seeking sobriety against addiction. So this can be open, the service can be open to a multitude of individuals. If someone is currently seeking recovery, if someone is maintaining or looking to maintain their recovery, as well as if you are an ally, you know someone who is going through a recovery experience, please feel free to let them know that we are a resource for them here at North Carolina Central University. Aside from that warm welcome, I would like to start by telling you guys that we do hold these monthly live streams. They're held every month on the second Thursday at 10:40. Um, as I mentioned, that this live stream is going to focus on gaming addiction. We also host weekly or bi-weekly spaces for students who are seeking recovery. So if anyone would like to join, I can hear us. We hold these spaces open on Mondays from 10 to 11 and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Feel free to join us. We do have a WebEx link that we could put in the chat, or as we progress throughout this presentation, we'll also provide you information to use this resource. So I know you guys are asking who are we, so I start off by introducing myself and as well as my team members. I'm Trayshawn Cooks, and I am the program assistant for the collegiate recovery community. I'll allow anyone else to share them, introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I am Jillian Grant. I'm the program coordinator for the Collegiate Recovery Program.
Well, I am Ashley. I am one of the graduate assistants for the CRC program.
Good morning. I'm Jorelina. I am a North Carolina State University student intern here at Central's Counseling Center.
Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm Omar McKnight. I'm one of the CRC student outreach coordinators.
All right, and good morning. My name is Dakota Togo. I am another graduate assistant for the CRC. And we do have some other guests joining us today, Mr. Josh Coble and Victoria Flory. And we will have Mr. Derek Garrett coming on at some point, I believe. And I'm going to be hosting today. Trayshawn, have you passed the ball?
Sure. It's right to you.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. We have a little video that we're going to watch, as well as a game. And then for those who are following on the live stream, feel free to type out or, put your answers in the comments box as we go, okay? All right, are we all good here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good deal. So we're going to be talking about gaming addictions this month. And to start off, we have a little game of fact or fiction. The first question, or fact or fictional question, 75% of Americans have at least one gamer in their household. What do we think? Is that true or false, fact or fiction?
I'm going to say fiction.
I'm gonna go fact.
Okay. Fact, fiction. All right, that's actually a fact. There are at least one gamer in 75% of Americans' households, which was, I can believe it. Yeah. I mean, I have no choice because it's a fact, but all right. The second one, the average age of a gamer is between 35 and 44 years old. This one threw me off a little bit. I wasn't sure. What do y'all think?
Well, since the last one was a fact, I'm gonna say this is a fact.
I think this one's false.
Okay. This one is actually a fact as well. I wasn't sure, but if you think about it, I mean, I'm approaching 30. So I grew up on video games, so I'm sure that that's pretty viable, you know? All right. This next one is Minecraft is the most played game in the world. What do y'all think? Omar says false. Ashley says fact. Josh says fact. Grand Theft Auto, Trayshawn. I haven't played that in years. This is actually false. The most played game in the world is Fortnite. I am still very unaware of what exactly Fortnite is. Know a plethora of people that play it though. But that's not why we're here today. We're not here to figure out what Fortnite is. I'll do my own research outside of here. All right, and then the last one is Candy Crush is the most popular mobile game. What do y'all think? All right, we got a true fact, Fendi fact. Temple Run. Trayshawn, it's not 2011. You 10 years behind. Okay, this is actually false. This is fiction. The most popular mobile game is actually Pokemon Go, and I didn't know that until I looked it up. I have a friend that still plays Pokemon Go. I think I downloaded it for like 2 weeks, and then I was over it. You got to do a lot of walking, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. All right. So moving on, we've got a short little clip that highlights treating gaming addiction. It's about 3 minutes, and we're just gonna go ahead and play.
If you've ever spent time with any teenage boys, you probably won't
we
be
hear?
surprised to hear that 97% of them in the U.S. play video games somewhat regularly. And with competitive esports on the rise, gaming is only getting more popular. But when does a hobby turn into an unhealthy habit? As Christina Quinn reports, video game addiction is a reality for many, but there is help.
250 million people play Fortnite. That's bigger than the population of most countries. And it can be hard to stop playing, as this woman, who we'll call Mary, found out when her son's enthusiasm turned into an obsession.
His character was changing clearly. He wasn't sleeping, he wasn't thinking straight, and he was starting to lie.
She did what most parents might do. She took Fortnite away, but that backfired. Her son ran away, and then one night they rushed him to the emergency room.
We felt that he may hurt himself.
She says the experts wanted to treat her son for depression. Then she found a doctor who had a different approach. Alok Kanodia is a Harvard psychiatrist. He's also a gamer, and he believes gaming addiction is really about filling a void.
Biological or substance use disorders are very different from behavioral addictions.
And he says cold turkey isn't the answer. It's about finding balance. His approach comes from firsthand experience. He was addicted to video games.
I mean, after 2 years of college, I had less than 2.0 GPA, was on academic probation, was on the cusp of failing out because I would just wake up every day and play video games from about 11 a.m. till 3 in the morning.
He was desperate for help, and his dad, desperate to help him, sent him to an ashram in India to study yoga and meditation for 3 months.
And what I really found in India is a system that teaches you why, that teaches you what is the nature of desire. Like, why do you fall victim to your desires on some days and not victim to your desires on other days?
My sense is that you try to change, and then you notice that when you try to make a change, you start to become uncomfortable.
This is part of his therapeutic approach, one that now reaches thousands of gamers. He calls it Healthy Gamer, and he holds live sessions online in the places where gamers are, on Twitch and Discord.
Think about the person that you are.
They include guided meditations and frank discussions about mental health, and they attract hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. Gamers, he says, tend to be analytical thinkers. He coaches them to connect with their emotions.
So a lot of the gamers that I work with are actually not aware of like what their negative emotions even are, because they spend so many hours a day doing something that is literally shutting off their negative emotional circuitry.
Kanuja sees Healthy Gamer as a toolkit, a way to reach gamers who may not be able to access the kind of one-on-one therapy he provided to Mary's son.
The look has a way of talking to him with logic instead of cold turkey. It was more moderation, finding other domains in your life, finding that balance
between the online world and the real world.
Christina Quinn joins me now. Hi.
All right, so we're gonna cut the video right there. I just thought that that was interesting, especially her account of her son and his video game addiction, as well as the gentleman that was treating other people because he had went to treatment as well. And so we're gonna jump right in and talk to our special guests that are on the line. Like I said, we have Mr. Josh Coble with Pasadena Villa, Victoria Fleury, who is with Alexander Youth Network, and then I believe Mr. Derek Garrett, he works in the gaming center at North Carolina Central. He may be coming on a little bit later. But we'll start with Mr. Coble. What is your current role and your background?
Yeah, thanks for having me today. So my current role, I've been working in behavioral health in more of an administrative kind of liaison role for the last 6 years. So currently for Pasadena Villa, I act more as a community liaison. So connecting our programs to, local communities and resources within the communities that the programs exist in. So I have a lot of crossover, a lot of conversations with, psychiatrists, clinicians, hospital case managers, attorneys, kind of the list kind of goes on, and really try to help navigate folks into a direction, of treatment if that's needed, or other resources outside of that. So that's my current role with Pasadena Villa. Pasadena Villa is a mental health network of programs. We have an outpatient, the acronyms are, some of you may be familiar with them, some may not, but PHP and IOP is the level of care that we offer in North Carolina. So we've got an outpatient program that offers that in Raleigh, in the Triad area, Greensboro, and then in Charlotte, which is where I live. And then we've also got residential treatment in Tennessee as well. So got several offerings. And, when I originally started talking to you, Dakota, we had talked about a program that's within our network. It's actually in Florida. It's called Life Skills, and they actually focus on gaming addiction and technology addiction. They've partnered with like an industry leader in that space. His name's Dr. Greenfield. Pretty similar to, what we just watched that video of. He's really just, that's his focus, is that population. And so, that's, I'm not as familiar with it, I'll be honest, but I've taken some nuggets from what they do and kind of been a fly on the wall, hear a little bit about what they do. And I think it's awesome, and I think it's super relevant today. I mean, within the last 365 days of being in this COVID environment, I think a lot more people have been stuck at home and probably playing video games. I'll be honest, I've been playing video games. And if you want my thoughts, they're purely opinions. I'm not a professional, clinical professional in this space, but I've made some kind of, I'll say, objective and subjective, I have both perspectives around gaming addiction, and I know for a fact it's very real. So happy to share my thoughts on it. But as far as like clinical professional feedback, I would love to, spin that off to someone that has specific experience working with it clinically. But other than that, I don't know. I can go into kind of some of my thoughts on that. But outside of my role at Pasadena Villa and what I currently do, I am a former CRC student. I went to UNC Charlotte, graduated back in 2015. I was one of the first CRC students there when I went there in 2013. I actually went to NC State for 2 years. Did not do well. Coming up on 10 years of sobriety this December, and so I was definitely not ready for college when I first went to NC State. So I got a lot out of the UNC Charlotte program, met a lot of great, like honestly, lifelong friends there, and actually got to sit in as a board member afterwards and was an intern while I was there. So it's been interesting to see how, there's multiple CRCs throughout the state. It's interesting to see how they're all structured, because they're all structured a little bit differently. And just to watch them grow and, get the students engaged, I think it's really cool. And I'm, happy to be a part of this and getting to, get a feel for how you guys have it structured. So really like this thing that y'all do with the live stream and the music at the beginning. I thought that was my music playing through, to be honest with you. So I signed off real quick. I thought I was blowing your ears out with my music, and it wasn't my music, it was yours. So I thought that was cool.
Thank you, and congratulations on your 10 years. I don't know if I mentioned, but I also graduated from UNC Charlotte for undergrad. And Trayshawn is a UNCC alumni as well.
Nice.
So yeah, we were there at the same time, actually. I went from 2011 to 2015.
Okay. Yeah, we were then.
Yeah. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be asking about opinions and stories, or stuff like that. So don't worry. And then let's see, Victoria, how are you doing today, ma'am?
I'm making it.
I know
making it.
she had just called me before we started the stream, having some issues at the office that she's at right now. So we hope that gets better. But
I mean, it don't have nothing to do with me. So backstory for everyone else. I work for Alexander Youth Network. Most people know that Alexander Youth Network is based out of Charlotte, but we have multiple Triad locations. And so I work in the Winston-Salem office, and our office is pretty tiny. And so on a regular basis, it's usually just like myself, who's the full-time therapist, and the receptionist. And this morning we came and our bathroom is flooded, and it's like two girls, not saying that girls can't do it, but like the receptionist did try to like turn the water off, and it was impossible. And because there's no manager here, we're like calling around trying to figure out what to do. And I'm like, I'm about to dip because this is not my house. But so again, my name is Victoria Fleury. I work for Alexander Youth Network. I am a licensed clinician. My current role is the clinical assessor. What that means is I do all of the assessments for new clients coming in, as well as I have a small outpatient caseload, or smaller outpatient caseload. It's still pretty big. I work with kids age 5 through 18. I've been with Alexander for over 2 years now. I have my master's in social work. I got my master's in social work from Boston College. And then for undergrad, I graduated from Florida State University with a bachelor's in psychology and African American studies. So I'm not from North Carolina, but I chose to live here. Yeah, that's my background. That's my current role. A little bit about my experience with gaming addiction. I put it in quotations, not that I don't necessarily believe it, but as my professional role, we use the DSM-5 for diagnosis, and gaming addiction is not a diagnosis that we would use. And so we kind of pull on what the guy in the video said. Behavior addictions are different from substances. And so when you start to think about the whatever that behavior addiction is, you think about what that void is that that person is trying to fill. So in my experience, most of the time it is something going on in person's life or said person's life that leads them to that, and that becomes their primary coping skill, regardless of if it's a negative coping skill. And so when I get clients, we talk about one, what's going on, but we also talk about coping skills and what they mean and what triggers are, and we kind of get down to the root of where this came from. And again, focusing on that moderation, we would never go cold turkey for anything. But really trying to get client or whoever the person is to improve their daily functioning and figure out where they can fit in this thing that they love doing while still doing the other things that they need to do to be successful.
Thank you, Victoria.
You are
I'm
welcome.
excited to have you on this morning. And then has Mr. Garrett joined or no? He may not be able to make it. That's okay. Let's see. All right. So what do we know about gaming addiction? Does anyone have any input on that? Anything that they know personally, specifically, that they want to chime in about? Not just the guests, but CRC as well.
I know the average age for gaming addiction is 35 to 44. Is that what you just said?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you for that, for being observant. Anyone else? If not, I have some stuff that I can talk about. So it's great to have a hobby, but it's at some point you have to wonder, like, when are we taking things too far as spending a certain amount of time on it? And that's kind of the question that experts are looking at for gaming addiction is, when does this actually transition into becoming an addiction instead of a hobby? And gaming has been around for about 50 years, like video games. But they're still doing some studies on the harmful effects of it, because I guess there's some psychological things that are happening when you're playing video games. And then different groups have come to different conclusions about whether the problem should be called an addiction, like I said. And as Victoria had mentioned, the DSM-5 does not list that as an actual addiction, but the World Health Organization has actually added gaming disorder to their 2018 version of their medical reference book. And so far the DSM-5, I think the only thing that they have in there as far as addiction is gambling listed.
For video games, it's one of the ones that require more research. So it could be by the time we get a new DSM-5, it is included if the research shows that. So it's in there. It's just not an actual diagnosis. They know, are aware of it. It's just not a thing yet.
Yeah, thank you. And so it's like you said, they have it in there, but it's not a diagnosis. It has a section that will help doctors and other people know the warning signs of a problem. And that can be whether you play online or offline. And so we have some signs to watch for video game, quote unquote, addiction and/or spending too much time on it. So if someone is thinking about gaming all the time or just a lot in general, that might be a warning sign. If they need to spend more time playing to feel good about themselves or about life in general, that could be a warning sign. Not being able to quit or play less is also a sign. Not wanting to do other things that they used to like. Having problems at work, at school, or at home because of gaming. Playing despite other problems such as, or other things such as work, school, or, general life things, and avoiding all of that. And then lying to people that are close to them about how much they play the games. And then using gaming to ease bad moods and feelings. Honestly, I have a younger brother. He's 11 years younger than me. And I remember when his friends would come over and they used to play video games all the time. And even myself, when I was younger, I remember I had my little Game Boy Advance, and I used to be up until like 2 or 3 in the morning on the weekends playing Pokemon. Um, just because it was like a little escape. I was in a whole different world on the weekends. And if my mom didn't regulate that and take the Game Boy away when I was little, I would really just be on it until the batteries died, to be quite honest. Um, so yeah, let's see. So not everyone who plays video games has a problem, though. You just need to keep that in mind. Um, Somewhere between 1% and 9% of all gamers, um, adults and kids, have proposed criteria for the addiction to gaming. All right, so Mr. Coble, I know that you're traveling, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask you first. I know you spoke about Pasadena Villa a little bit and their treatment options. Do you know anything about those, or what that's like for your agency?
Yeah, so Life Skills, which is the program that's within our network that I mentioned down in Florida that specifically treats that. They treat it more on and I know it's not, as y'all been talking about, in the DSM-5. It's, I think obviously there still is more research to be done, but they treat it more as like a retreat style of programming for the gaming addiction. It's almost like a detox from it, and then a reintegration to bringing technology back into your life. As far as like the therapies around that, I know a lot of it is experiential based, and then there's definitely like a lot of psychoeducational pieces to it as well, just as far as talking about what's happening in the brain and how it's how it affects behaviors and actions and whatnot. But as far as like the specific narrowed in modalities to treat that, that's why I was hoping to get someone from that program on this call. They were tied up today. I can't speak as fluently to that, but it's I'll say in a nutshell, it's like a detox, and then a reintegration and back into using technology, and it's coming from an experiential and a psychoeducational place in terms of how the treatments rolled out. So yeah, it's newer for the network, but I think the person that's kind of heading the charge is great at what he does. And so I mean, like what others have said, it's definitely, like, I'd say Pasadena Villa sees gaming addiction tied into co-occurring mental health quite a bit. We just treat it as a process addiction like anything else, and would treat it that way. So that's really how Pasadena Villa approaches working with gaming addiction. Hope that helps answer that.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And then you had already spoke a little bit about the other resources that you had and other people that you had tried to get on a call. But we also, the CRC at NCCU, we don't really have treatment options, but if you know anybody that's on the lab knows anybody that has somewhat of a gaming addiction, you can definitely refer them to us, and we can most definitely try to get them the help that they need or be here as, a community for them. All right. And so, oh, was someone else speaking? Or was that feedback from me? That might have been my computer. Sorry. And then the next question was from Mr. Garrett, but he's not able to join us today. Jillian, let me scroll so I can see your face. I know that you had spoken with him. I know that you had spoken with him because he worked in the gaming center. Do you have any insight to what he was going to speak about today? Because I know he had some experiences with students with gaming addiction.
I have very little insight, but yeah, he's a manager over the game room that we have here at Central and the bowling alley. And he didn't go into detail, but there was a student who had a challenging time graduating because of their obsession with playing video games. It consumed a lot of their time. They weren't present in class, they weren't paying attention in class, weren't doing their work and all of that stuff. So yeah, he just shared a little bit about that. I was hoping that he would be able to go into more detail on the call, but yeah, it is a real issue, definitely. And it is something that distracts people. They kind of get consumed with, the animation and the action and just the excitement of playing these games. And it's consuming because you can, think like, oh, I'm just going to spend an hour doing this and 5 hours go by and you've missed class or you haven't gotten your work done. So
Yeah. And like I said about my brother, when I was talking to him about doing this live today, he said that he had a peer of his that all that they did was play video games. My brother's still in high school, by the way. And I think that their game is they play as Fortnite. And so I definitely need to do some research when we get off of here because I have no idea what Fortnite is, to be quite honest. To know what that's about and why it's so addicting. And I think oh, sorry.
Could I just say something real quick about the Fortnite style games?
Yeah.
So Fortnite is like a battle royale style game. That's what it's called. And I feel like such a dork saying this because I play Call of Duty Warzone, which is like it's up there as one of the most popular games right now. And I started playing it during like at the beginning of the quarantine, and I have a lot of friends that play it. And so Battle Royale is like online. It's like a giant open world type experience, but you're talking with your friends, and your friends are in there with you, and it's just like I've played a lot of video games in the past, and usually I'm with friends, like they're right there with me, and so we'll play for a couple hours, and then we'd be done with it. Sometimes I play a game a lot for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I would put the controller down. I wouldn't play again for another year. This game is different. Battle Royale style games are different because it brings like this level of community into the game, and it's like a true detachment. So Fortnite is that. There's other games like Dungeons and Dragons or League of Legends. Those are some big ones from back in the day, and it's different. And I'll just say from experience, I've played a lot of different video games, and I'll get into it and I'll hop out of it. This Battle Royale style game is different. It's very different. And there's social media influencers. There's, like you said, Discord and Twitch. There's these different social media outlets that, pump it even more. And I think there's a lot of psychology that goes into the decisions of how they create the games and how they create the communities. And the more research needed comment that was made is, I think that's definitely the case, because they're exponentially getting further and further and further ahead in this space as far as like captivating an audience. And so I think there's a lot of research that needs to be done. But that was just my little snippet on Battle Royale games. That's what Fortnite is. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think since I don't have any gaming systems, when I spoke about Candy Crush earlier, I remember I re-downloaded it last year when the pandemic first began, and that I used that as a way to like get my mind off of the news and everything that was going on and like all the new updates we were getting. So I was on Candy Crush. I know I would look at my phone at the end of the week when they would give you the screen time report, and it'd be the numbers were outrageous for me. And that's fine because, pandemic, we all have to cope somehow. And if Candy Crush is it, then Candy Crush is it. But it started to become a problem too. So I deleted that after like a month. Um, and I think when I was in college, most of the people I knew played Call of Duty. 2K, the NBA game, has been a big one. But I never really knew. I mean, I'm sure there were people that skipped class to do it just because that's the nature of college sometimes. But not people that were necessarily addicted. They just like playing with their friends and like you said, being on the headset and talking to people. So yeah. All right.
I
So
talked I
Yeah.
talked a little bit to Trey Sean over the chat, and I asked if I could kind of include a little something. I'm William, one of the counselors in the
okay.
center. Um, two things I guess I think I would want to point to. One is if you are interested in some of this research, there's a guy named Nick Yee, Yee, who wrote a book on virtual worlds. There's also a podcast called The Psychology of Games that's hosted by a guy named Jamie Madigan. And he talks about basically all these different angles, like what do we like achievement and motivation and why do we do these sorts of things. Two quick things I want to mention is there's a phenomenon that they call the virtual Skinner box. B.F. Skinner was a behavioral psychologist who was around probably about half a century ago. And he taught pigeons to do these really insane things in these boxes by basically rewarding them at variable intervals. So it's almost like, it's not like every time you do it, you get a reward, but maybe every couple times you do it, you might get a reward. It's very inconsistent. So that has been found to be the most strong reinforcement schedule if you want to get somebody to do something. So a lot of games have sort of made it so that, you'll get rewarded every once in a while, but not every time. And you're kind of like hoping that maybe this is the time you're going to get that reward. Like if I do it this time, I'll get a reward. And then you kind of stack reward on reward on reward. So for some of these games, you're always achieving something, you're always unlocking something new. And so it gives you this nonstop hit of dopamine where it's kind of like you're getting it, then you're getting it, then you're getting it, and you've got this now, and you got this now. I think another thing I want to mention when it comes to games is the reestablishment of causality. And what I mean by that is basically sometimes it can feel in our world that that we don't actually get a reward sometimes when we put in the work. We'll fill out this job application and we'll really tailor our resume and we'll send it in and then we won't get any response. And so it can feel like we don't feel effective in the world. Like we're not getting what we deserve based on the effort that we put in. But in games, a lot of times that reward comes. If you do whatever the action is, you're going to get the reward, at least in single player games. Now, multiplayer is a different story, but I think that can be a really appealing real world for some people to retreat into because they feel more effective in that world. They feel like, well, whatever I do in this world matters, and I get results when I do things in this world. And so I like it here. It's comfortable here. And I wish the real world worked that way. So I think those are just two things that I want to mention when it comes to video games and playing video games and being tempted by those worlds. I think it's worth mentioning. Okay. But thank you for the time. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for your insight. And Trayshawn had texted me, but I've turned my iMessage off because sharing screen.
Gotcha.
That's important. So thank you so much for that. Trayshawn, you're the Mortal Kombat champion. Okay, we'll see. We're supposed to be getting a gaming system for our lounge, I believe, whenever that's up and running, a PS5. I don't know if they make Mortal Kombat for that, but if y'all are interested, you can try Trayshawn out and see if he is the actual champion or not. So Victoria, back to you. I know you said you had somewhat of a different viewpoint when it comes to addiction. Well, not a different viewpoint, but it's not necessarily a diagnosis. So can you give us a little bit more insight on your experience with this as a therapist and working with clients that were consumed with video games?
Yes. So yeah, so it's not even that I don't believe that gaming addiction exists. It's just like in terms of as we work as therapists, that is not a diagnosis that we are going to give to someone. And so diagnosis is like the thing that bothers families, I guess, the most. So like most parents are gonna come in and say, like, my kid is addicted to his gaming. Like, sorry, that's not a thing that I can diagnose him with. Like, we're not gonna get away with that. Um, Not that diagnosing was my favorite thing anyways, but that's another story. And so when a kid comes in with that specifically, I probably would diagnose them with adjustment disorder, which, if everyone here knows, is like your easy diagnosis, and which you get to figure out what is going on with the kid that's stopping their functioning. That's what adjustment disorder is. It is that there something happened that has now created a shift in your level of functioning, and we want to figure out what that is to get you back to your normal level of functioning. Now, thinking about the pandemic, right? I think everyone probably gonna think they have a gaming disorder or even a Netflix disorder or anything that has been consuming our time because all of the other things that we were doing have been taken away from us, right? However, it's different because of the situations that we're in, right? So, like, if someone today came in with it, like, I'd probably treat it way differently than I would a year from now or a year ago.
Yeah.
But what I normally would do, right? I play games with my kids. So like I got Roblox, which is not the same, but it's that community piece, right? So we talk about how right now in this pandemic that all of our kids or all of our clients are isolated from the things that they did used to like to do, from the people they hung out with every day. And so when there is a new game that comes out, everyone is like, I need to do this. I need to be good at it. I want to play with all my friends or all my different friend groups. So even Among Us, which became popular during the pandemic, right? I had kids who played Among Us for hours. It wasn't because not necessarily that they were addicted, but it was this like new space that they could talk and play with their friends because they weren't seeing their friends before. Now, did that take precedent over schoolwork or over chores? Probably, right? And as parents, that's the biggest concern, right? Like, I need kids to do schoolwork. I need kids to do chores. I need kids to listen to me. I need kids to go on time or go to sleep on time. All of those parts are the level of function that has now been impaired, right? So I would work on with them getting back to those regular levels, right? But also seeing the appeal to that. Is it really that they just need to see their friends, right? Right now in the middle of a pandemic, that's not an option, right? But then working with that kid to figure out or to understand and to process, right? So someone mentioned it's a lot of psycho ed. It is a lot of psycho ed. You're allowing kid or client to realize, because of whatever is happening, I'm resorting to this, right? What else could I resort to? There may not be anything else, but what are the priorities that I have to do and what's going to stop? So a lot of our teenage boys that will come in that have this gaming addiction, it's less about the gaming addiction that parents are concerned about. It's more that because of the gaming, they're not listening, right? So that defiance, right? Or that now broken relationship that you now have with your parent or guardian, right? And so together we come up with times this kid can play, what kid is okay with. So recently I had a kid who he's doing really well in school, and we wouldn't necessarily say he has a gaming addiction, but he doesn't have discipline. And that's another thing that we work on, but also helping parents realize that not all kids, not even all adults, are going to have discipline in the areas that we want to have discipline in. Like, yes, I might really want to lose weight personally. Do I have the discipline to exercise every day and eat really healthy every day? Like, no. And I'm a grown woman. So think about telling a 12-year-old, 14-year-old boy, like, I need you to do all these things I need you to do. Like, they're not there yet. And getting parents to realize that is a big part of it, but also getting kids to realize it. They may actually feel that they have no control over this game and they have to do it, right? Once you start to help them change that process, processing, right, or change those thoughts, like I do have control. How often can I play this? And getting them to work with parents instead of being on separate teams. Like some kids will tell you, and like this one, for one particular kid right now, he will tell you he does want to do well in school. He just can't get himself to stop playing. Like he can't, right? And so what we are now working on is I asked him, like, what are you okay with mom doing? Like, I don't want you to get in trouble for this, but what are you okay with mom doing? Where do you want to draw the line? And for him, that was every day after school, mom lets him get a little break, and then he could do his homework. He, however, takes way too long on his breaks. And then when he finally decides to get back to his schoolwork, it's now like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And mom's like, nah, you got to go to sleep. Like, you have to be well rested for tomorrow. And so we're now working on a schedule, right? But also he was okay with mom being able to take away the laptop or the phone, right? Before, that was not something that he was ready to do because he felt like he was getting in trouble. But we let him test out for a week. Like, all right, we're going to get, you have full control over all of this. And it's about that control piece, right? Like in the game, they can do whatever they want. They can make whatever they want. They can be whoever they want. And then they have, in the outside world, these people telling them what I need them to do and when I need them to do it, right? So giving kids some bit of control in this decision or in the treatment is a big part of it, as well as including parents, right? So parents at some point are going to have to understand it is all about compromise. Not a lot of parents can do that, but that's what we work on, right? We get everyone to work on, we all want the same thing, which is this kid does want to get good grades. He just can't stop himself from doing work. So this week we are trying, mom is allowed to take away the laptop when she says it's break time is over and he can do his schoolwork. If he gets upset or if there's an issue, we would then discuss that in our session this or next week. But it's all about trial and error and getting kids to understand what they are in control of and when it's a problem, as well as if there is something else there. Again, pre-COVID, there might have been something else there. Like it might have been like mom and dad got a divorce and now I don't have dad to talk to all the time. So I'm gonna play video games all the time because dad also plays this video game and that's what I talk to him about. Right? Then we fix that relationship or we work on that relationship. But there's usually something or some reason why a kid magically started to only want to play this game, right? That's not to say that it was not an addiction, right? But there was always something else there. It didn't just happen that today I'm going to wake up and play this game all day, right? Because what normally happens for anyone on a regular basis, when you start to do something, you start to notice the impairment in your functioning. Even kids will start to notice, like, wow, I play this game all the time, but I'm not tired of it. I don't want to do anything else. But why is that? What were you doing before this game came about? Why do you no longer want to do it? Why are you no longer able to do it? So it is a lot of that talking through and working with the kid and the parent. But eventually you get to a point where parents and kids start to realize that the game is not the issue. And we can play the game. It is how long we play the game and the consequences or our behaviors, both parent behaviors and client behaviors, that are the issue, right? So if we can get parent and child to agree together, then you have a more livable home environment where you're arguing less and there's less of those issues. And then the kid playing the game is not a big deal anymore to them, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Thank you.
Yeah, I know I talk a lot, y'all.
You're fine. Can you be addicted to either gaming on a handheld device or through a game system? Does handheld devices make gaming more accessible to the individuals? I think both. I mean, obviously, I'm not an expert in it, and you're probably not asking me, but I think it's both, honestly. But I think the ones like the ones that.
I definitely do think that you could get addicted to both of them. So Roblox, which I guess is not really a video game, but kind of video, whatever. Roblox is like a handheld, it started off as a phone app. And then I have like a client tell me that you can do it on the computer. I didn't even know you can do it on the computer. So it's kind of like whatever the interest is, right? So some kids will get so into it that they're like, my phone screen isn't big enough. I need to go onto a computer. So it started off as a phone thing. and ended up being a computer or a system thing, but it's all of it, right? It is whatever is going on that you turn to, right? So it's kind of like any other coping skill. Like it could be exercise, right? So could you be addicted? Could you, every time you need to deal with something, you go out for a run, right? At some point you might be running the entire day because it's always something there until you process it. Same thing with that gaming, right? So until you process it, you might be at the system at one point and then go to a handheld, and it could just be different games, but it's like, you know, that gaming itself makes you feel better, and so that's what you're going to do, whether it's the system or the phone or a computer.
Right. Thank you. Let's see. All right, so now if anyone has any questions, we can get those answered. Georgie, or I don't know if Ashley's monitoring, whoever's monitoring Instagram, if there's any questions in there, feel free to shout those out. And if not, just let me know.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything from Facebook currently, so we're good to go on that.
Yeah, no questions from Instagram.
Okay. Well, once again, I want to thank Mr. Koba and Ms. Victoria for coming on. I just used the last name and the first name. I'm really sorry. I want to thank y'all for joining us today. I know Victoria personally, so that was a mess up.
I don't go by my last name, so it is totally fine.
So coming up, we do have some other things. We have Let's Talk Substance Use and Spirituality Part 2 on March 23rd, and we will be pubbing that on our social media. And then we have another live stream like this one on April 8th, and that one will be focused on marijuana addiction. And just so y'all know, we did try to kind of plan these strategically, because there is a holiday in April where people who are addicted to marijuana might celebrate. In March, because there's March Madness and all of that, we chose gaming this month. It was supposed to be gambling and gaming, but I feel like college students, we really don't have the money to gamble. So we focused on gaming. So the next one will be April 8th on marijuana. Does anyone else, are there any collaborators on that have any events that they want to highlight before we head off? I don't know, I can't see the chat anymore. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today. We are going to put this evaluation form into the chat box. If everyone could please fill that out for us, help us improve. Just want to thank y'all for attending, and we also will be giving away some prizes for those who fill out that evaluation form. Anything else, CRC team? All right, well, I think that this was a great time. I hope everyone else did as well. Thank y'all for joining again, and I hope that y'all have a wonderful Thursday and a good weekend as well. Thank y'all. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me.